All right, today we're looking at the history of animation. It comes from my reading of the World History of Animation and Watch Me Move the Animation Show. So we're going to look at the early innovators. The first one is Edward Muybridge. Famously, you probably know about it. He was hired by Leland Stanford to prove that at some point in a horse's stride that the hoofs are all off the ground. And then what happens is that he basically takes each of these, I guess you could call them slides, and puts them together. And of course, if you flip it, I used to have a flip book about this. It shows horses in motion. Therefore, Muybridge is an early pioneer in film. This is Chloe Fuller in the Lumiere Brothers Serpentine Dance. Fuller was a very exceptional dancer, and the whole film stock is colored afterwards. And you see her here in her very famous Serpentine Dance. This is a work from Etienne Jules Mary, and he's using what's called a photographic gun, and you see things in motion, a pole vaulter in motion. And then probably George Millet is the most famous of these early innovators. He was in the film Hugo. You might have seen that. And this is his very famous trip to the moon. He was exceptionally talented and really pushed the boundaries of cinema in its very, very early ages. This is by Arthur Melbourne Cooper, and it's an appeal for the English to support soldiers in the Boer War, which, of course, is problematic. And then down below, it's called Dreams of Toyland. So these are all stop motion films that it's just really the kind of the earliest of the stop motion innovation. And then this is Phantasmagorie. It includes 700 drawings, and it's the first full-length animated film, which is pretty important. And then this is Ladislaw Sterwinski. He's the father of stop-motion animation, and these are all of his characters that he had in his movies. And it's interesting. You can see that he truly probably was influential on Wes Anderson's movie. And with The Tale of Foxes here is his. Okay. Yeah. All right. This is something by Winsor McCay, and it was a propaganda film. And it was done in 1918 after the sinking of the Lusitania. And it's really the first public information and propaganda film. All right. Let's keep going. Okay, what about dinosaurs? So for some reason, they became a huge interest in early filmmaking history. And this is Gertie the dinosaur, and it's really the first true character that was animated in film history. And then this one's kind of fun. This is totally stop motion. This is Willis O'Brien's The Dinosaur and the Missing Link, a prehistoric tragedy, 1917, of course. And then this is a work by Ray Harryhausen, who is maybe the most revered teacher, filmmaker extraordinaire. And this is from 1966, 1 million years BC, and it shows live figures interacting with I guess, clay figures. You may know that in Monsters Inc., one of the restaurants is called Harryhausen's, and that's an homage to, definitely an homage to Ray Harryhausen. And there he is with one of his dinosaurs. Okay, the biggest cartoon star of the 1920s was Felix the Cat. And it's interesting. There's a real sort of controversial sort of aspect to this, and I can't remember which one it is, but one of them took credit for the other's work, really. But I can't remember if it's Mesmer or Aurelio. Maybe I'll look that up. Hold on a second. Okay, so it's Otto Mesmer that was the one who was not given credit early on for his work, which was actually a guy with the last name Sullivan, who what later was seen to be just the promotional person. Okay, so now we're going to look at this history of Walt Disney, and of course Steamboat Willie is the first animation with sound. So that's that. And I think it's now in the public domain just recently. And of course, this was a huge step in the history of animation. And then the first full-length colored feature film with animation is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And if you look at it, it's really sort of there's just some jiltedness, if you will. It's to look at that and then to look at something that's produced today. It's just sort of a interesting contrast. And it's all animated cells, right? It's not computer generated, so on and so forth. So it makes sense that it's pretty basic, but it also was one of the most important films of its day. And then this is Lottie Reiniger's The Adventures of Prince Ahmed. So it is the earliest surviving animated feature film, which is in 1920. Yeah, that makes sense. 1925, because Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is 1937. So I kind of screwed up. Well, it was Disney's first full-length piece. Okay, now let's go beyond what are called the 9 white old men of Disney Studios. And this is Tyrus Wong. He's a concept artist he was a concept artist for Bambi. He was a Chinese American, and check out these film stills from, or I think it's probably more just ahead of time he's doing the sort of the backgrounds for Bambi, and it totally is linked to the long tradition of Chinese landscape paintings. So this is kind of like concept art for Bambi. He's a really interesting guy. He ended up being a Hallmark card artist in Kansas City for years and years and years after he left Disney Studios. And then the last thing that he really started to focus in on was kites, these beautiful colored kites on the beaches of Southern California. And then here is Mary Blair, probably the most famous woman animator. And this is, let me look here. Okay, so this is concept art for Cinderella right here. There's a couple of books on her and some of the other women animators. It was not easy to be amongst a very male-dominated culture at Disney, but she managed to do really well as an artist. Okay, and then this is Floyd Norman, and he was one of the first African-American animators, and this is him at his animation desk. And then he is known for some of the concept art and the actual film, The Jungle Book, which you see here. What else? Yeah, so Floyd Norman, there's a TV show on the TV of The Incredibles, and he actually animated that. So that's one of the things that he did. All right, now let's go to the golden age of cartoons. This is Warner Brothers Looney Tunes, 1930. This is, so the golden age is 1928 to 1957. This is Tex Avery and Chuck Jones. This is Porky Pig, Daffy Duck, Bugs Bunny, and Wile E. Coyote, and Roadrunner. Now, when I was growing up in the 70s, I thought these animated short films were being produced, in my time. They were constantly on TV in the mornings on Saturdays. But actually, that's not true. The Looney Tunes came from the 1930s. I think some of them were younger than that, but it's just interesting to me that for some reason the quality of the creativity in this period is still very much admired. And then meaningful content. This is United Productions of America's The Brotherhood of Man. So a really pretty serious, very serious sort of topic, which we really haven't seen that much of until this time period, which is 1945. And then many people don't know that in 1954 there was a interpretation of the Animal Farm, and this is in England. That's kind of, I always thought, I don't know if I've ever seen it before, but it makes sense that it was done in England because George Orwell, of course, who wrote Animal Farm in 1984, was English. Okay, so now we're looking at, what are we looking at here? The television age, 1958 to 1985. This is William Hanna and Joseph Barbera's Tom and Jerry, Mouse Trouble, 1944. I find Tom and Jerry to be a little bit intense for me, but other people love it. And then Yogi Bear, the Yogi Bear Show from 61 to 88. So these are sort of things that were being made in my time period as a little kid. And you got all kinds of characters in here for the Yogi Bear Show. Okay, and then the Jetsons. People still talk about the Jetsons today. 1962-63. I wonder if they ever did sort of a reboot of the Jetsons. That could be interesting. And hopefully it would be more than just people who are white in space. I'll have to look that up and see if it ever happened. Okay, now let's go worldwide. We're going to go to the Havoc in Heaven that comes out of China. And it's a very, very famous early animated series, I believe, or it might have been I think it's just a movie. And there's a lot of new interest in the characters in this movie as of late. I've read an article recently about it. Okay, so Terry Gilliam, who is in the picture in the upper right-hand corner, he's the guy in the upper right. He was the only American of the very famous, of course, Monty Python's Flying Circus. And so he did all of the animation that's very, very famous for Monty Python. And then it's interesting to me, at least, that the foot on the left is actually taken from a Bronzino painting, Cupid, Venus, and Time. That's at the National Gallery in London. And you can see that are both so the left foot is definitely being recreated in the animation on the left. Gotta love when art history influences animation. And here's the full painting by Bronzino. All right, where are we going next? All right, I don't really know all that much about Astro Boy. I know the original one came out in 1965, and then there was a manga series in 54 before the actual Japanese Astro Boy, and then in 2009. Some of you might have seen it. I never did. Is sort of the reboot from a Japanese studio. You see the poster on the right. So, yeah. So the Astro Boy from 1965 is on the left, and then the other one from 2009. I've watched a little bit of this movie. It's Akira. It's a really standard thing that people want to see for sure. And it's definitely innovative in a number of different ways, and is still considered to be sort of the masterpiece of I guess the 80s. Okay, Sailor Moon is based off of a manga from 1991. And there's a lot of people that really love Sailor Moon. So there's this theory that the reason why Japanese culture is so interested in sort of this cuteness, it's called the super flat theory, is because they're still dealing with the trauma of World War II. So there you go. I'm going to look up something up on this one. Okay, so I was right about the details of Sailor Moon. Okay, so Ghost in the Shell is a super famous series and movie from 1995. It was very controversial when Scarlett Johansson played the main character as opposed to an Asian actress. And I don't know if I saw the whole film necessarily, but I'm very familiar with the controversy. Okay, probably of your generation and my children's generation, the one, probably the one studio that people look at the most is Studio Ghibli, without a doubt. And this is Princess Mononoke. Sorry. That's a dark one. That's one of the darker films from Studio Ghibli. And then here's Spirit Away, and that was really the breakout animated film from Studio Ghibli for sure. It won the Academy Award for animation. It put Miyazaki sort of on the map. That's when he started to get more deals where English-speaking actors were used to make the English version of all of these very, very popular animated movies. So it makes sense that Spirited Away would be seen here. Okay, let's keep going. All right, so many of you are probably not familiar with this one. This is The Hedgehog in the Fog, done by a Russian artist in 1975. And I think I'm going to try and get it at some point. I think it's available. It would be really interesting to look at, that's for sure. And then this is what I remember before all of the Peter Jackson films came out, of course. And that is The Lord of the Rings, done with a rotoscope. And it came out in 1978, and I still remember it as a really beautiful movie. But of course, now everybody just watches the Peter Jackson ones. But there was a precursor to his work. All right, Tron came out in 1982. It's a mixture of animation and live cinema. I don't know if I've ever seen it before. There was a reboot, of course, just a couple of years ago. I never found Tron that interesting, but it's important to talk about, films that are sort of pushing the envelope. All right, let's go to my family's favorites. This is Avery's favorites, The Secret of NIMH, which is based off of a book called The Rats of NIMH, and they can talk, and they're intelligent, and it's really an exceptional film. It came out in 1982. All right. So I think Avery's first ever movie that he watched was actually The Sword and the Stone, which is based off of a book that I read in high school, actually. And so you see the wizard's duel down below there, and then you see Merlin talking to Wart in the upper left-hand corner. So I think it's a pretty good movie to first start with, probably. And then Bryn's favorite animated movie is Kiki's Delivery Service. It actually happens to be one of my favorites as well. Really interesting, fun movie. And then let's go to Aardman Animation Studios, who are, except for one film, which was flushed away, they have always done stop motion animation with clay figures. They're very well known for it. And of course, their biggest draw was Wallace and Gromit movies. This is Wallace and Gromit on the Grand Day Out. They're on the moon, eating the moon, which is actually cheese, which is a lot of fun. And the head of that particular studio is Nick Park, very, very famous animator. And then Fantastic Mr. Fox would be Jennifer's favorite, and was just talking about how that was influenced by an earlier film. It's Wes Anderson. I think it's his best animated film for sure. What else? Yeah, so there's three of the main characters. Yeah, okay. Sorry, it's a brilliant film. All right. Now we're going to look at something. So the dawn of the... first, we're not going to go to that at first. Okay, sorry. This is Naruto. I'm probably mispronouncing it. My apologies. This is another favorite of Avery's. He has a tattoo on his ankle that is connected to this series. Okay. And then, of course, you've got another family favorite, which is Avatar. Avatar was really the first, I think, animated series that my children fell in love with. It was out, of course, and created 2005 to 2008, and then there's been various different offshoots of it, for sure, as of late. This is Gravity Falls. This is another family favorite. 2012 to 2016. I've not really watched it that much, but I know that it's very appreciated by the current generation. And then the regular show is one of my favorites. All those guys in there, Mitch, the Muscle Man, so on and so forth. And yeah, it came out, 2010 to 2017. All right, now it's the dawn of the digital age, 86 to 2010. And this, of course, is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And it was a sensation when it came out. The mixture of animated and live actors was something to behold. It was really incredible when it came out. And there's been other ones, of course, similar to it, but it is the start of the interest in doing this sort of film. Okay, and then here's Toy Story. It came out in 1995. And if you watch it, Woody is a little bit of a hard-edged character. He became, I think, much more friendly in the later movies. I think there's a new one coming out. I don't know which one it would be, number 5 or something like that. So it's a franchise. It's been around for a very, very long time. And you can also, if you watch the films kind of in a row, you can see that the technology improves vastly after each film. Okay, my favorite Pixar is actually is Ratatouille. I think it's about an artist, which is always something lovely to see. It's so when Ratatouille came out, it was a Pixar film, but now, of course, Disney owns Pixar, so that's what you're seeing here in the poster here. And then Finding Nemo came out in 2003. I think that was the first film, maybe, that one of our children actually saw in the theaters. And there's Darla saying, fish in my hair, at the dentist office. Okay. And then you have DreamWorks' Shrek. DreamWorks was funded by these 3 billionaires in the film industry. Spielberg was one of them. And I've heard a lot of things about Shrek's history as of late, that they were actually going to have a different actor be the voice of Shrek. And there's probably another Shrek coming out soon, too. It's such a cash cow. But really inventive, great use of music, and it's just it turned out to be a wonderful film, along with the other ones that came after it. I actually like the second one, but I don't particularly care for the third one. All right, and then believe it or not, Disney was sort of on the ropes in the 80s. They didn't even know if the studio would survive. And then they came out with The Little Mermaid in 89. And here is Ariel looking at a painting by George de la Tour, which is in the collection of the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. She has it in that cave where she's collected all of those works or objects from the human world. And here's the actual painting. All right. I think it's pronounced Leica Studios, of course, in Portland, Oregon. Very, very popular among your generation. And this is Coraline, 2009, up above. And then The Creation of Kubo and the 12 Strings are down below to the right. All right, here's Kubo. There you go. And then let's go to France and Ireland. If you've never seen this movie, I highly recommend it. It's The Triplets of Belleville, 2003. A lot of just interesting motion, a lot of interesting creation of characters. I think you would really enjoy it. Maybe some of you have already seen it before. And then so Cartoon Saloon is in Ireland, and their breakout hit, of course, was 2009's The Secret of the Kells, and it's just magical. The whole film is, and it's done the old-fashioned way with colored cells. It's not computer generated. And they've come out with some other ones, but I think still their masterpiece is this one. All right, so there's two people from the Kerwin family that graduated from Perpich. Alex Kerwin created My Life as a Teenage Robot, 0407, which was an animated series. And then this is his sister, Wednesday, who I didn't teach, but she was in the school when I was first here. Eggs Are Everywhere, 2019, and she was a graduate in 1998. Oh, let's hear some more of her illustrations. Okay. All right, so since 2018, when I first made this this lecture, we now have some interesting things for sure. This is diverse video installation artists, and this is, let me see here. This is, which one? Oh, okay, so it's William Kittredge's More Sweetly, Play the Dance, 2015. And then this is Cao Fei's A Second Life City Planning. She has this avatar known as China Tracy. And then, let's keep going. This is Tabemo, who is Japanese, and this is sort of the world of her world, so to speak. Animated, and it's a video installation like the other ones. And then this is Sikander, who's from Pakistan, and she started off very, very small with her works, so now she does these giant video installations as her art, which I think is really interesting. And then Paparazzi Ritz, who's from Switzerland. You go in, you lay down on a bed, and you look up to the video screen. So that's that. I think we're done. All right. I'm going to skip Isaac Julian. There's just two more of his works, but that's a pretty good overview, I think, of the history of animation. All right, thanks.